Hey, welcome. Today we're jumping into one of the most practical and, let's be honest, challenging books in the New Testament, the book of James. This isn't about deep, abstract theology. Nope. This is all about a faith you can actually see, a faith that gets its hands dirty.
So let's start with the big question, the one that James seems absolutely determined to answer. It's something we've probably all wondered about at some point. What does faith actually look like in the real world? You know, on a Tuesday afternoon when you're stuck in traffic or dealing with a difficult coworker. The entire book of James is basically one big, powerful answer to that question.
All right, so to really get the message, it helps to know the messenger. I mean, who was this person who sat down and wrote this incredibly down-to-earth guide for living out your faith?
Well, the letter comes from James, who is traditionally identified as the half-brother of Jesus. Just pause and think about that for a second. This wasn't some distant admirer. This is someone who grew up with Jesus. He went on to become a major leader, a real pillar in the very first church in Jerusalem. So when he speaks, he's speaking from the absolute heart of the early Christian movement. That context gives his words some serious weight.
Okay, let's get to the main event. If you take away just one thing from our time together, this is it. This is the absolute heartbeat of James's entire letter.
James draws this incredibly sharp line in the sand between two kinds of people. In one camp, you've got the hearers only. These are the folks who listen to the message. They might nod along, they might even agree with it, but nothing changes. James has a pretty blunt word for them. He says they're just deceiving themselves. But then in the other camp, you have the doers of the word. For them, faith isn't just a passive idea in their head. It's an active, living force that completely shapes how they live.
And that brings us to probably the most famous verse in the whole book. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Now, this is so important to get right. James is not saying that you do good things to earn your salvation. Not at all. What he is saying is that good works are the natural, inevitable proof of a real living faith. For James, if a faith doesn't lead to action, it's not really faith. It's just an empty shell.
So it all boils down to this. For James, real, authentic faith isn't just something you believe in your head. It's not a list of doctrines you agree with. It's a dynamic force. It's something you do, something that shows up in how you treat people and the choices you make day in and day out. Okay, so if faith is a verb, if it's something you do, then what exactly are we supposed to do? Well, this is where the book becomes this amazing, practical handbook for life. James doesn't just leave you hanging with a big idea. He gives you a roadmap.
First off, he completely flips the script on how to look at tough times. He basically says, hey, when you run into hardships, don't see them as a disaster. See them as an opportunity, a chance to build spiritual muscle, to develop patience and resilience, and to actually deepen your faith. It's a really radical way to think about the struggles of life.
And the practical advice just keeps on coming. I mean, he covers so much ground. He talks about controlling what you say, caring for the poor and vulnerable, the incredible power of prayer, what real wisdom looks like, the importance of humility, and why you should never play favorites. Every single one of these is a real-world test of whether your faith is the hearing kind or the doing kind.
And here it is again, just in case we missed it. He says this right near the beginning of the letter because it's so central. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only. Notice, that's not a suggestion. It's a command. For James, this is the non-negotiable standard for a faith that's actually alive.
So, why are we still talking about this short letter almost 2,000 years later? What makes it so timeless? Well, its message is just as relevant and just as sharp today as it was back then.
Its lasting legacy is that it's this relentless challenge to any kind of passive, comfortable belief. You could say the book of James has been a necessary thorn in the side of any version of Christianity that gets too theoretical or disconnected from real life. It's a practical anchor, always pulling us back to the simple truth that what you claim to believe has to be proven by how you actually live.
And so that brings us right back to where we started, but this time the question is pointed directly at us. James's challenge echoes through the centuries and lands right here, right now. He asks us to be doers. So the question he leaves us with, the one to really think about, is this. What is your faith doing? What does it look like in action? That's a question worth sitting with long after this is over.